Good evening, everyone. I'm Pat Harvey. Now, tonight, a group in San Bernardino is making their voices heard after federal immigration officials busted through a car window and shot the door while people were inside. KCAL News reporter Nicole Comstock is live in San Bernardino with the rally held this evening. Nicole.
Well, Pat, thankfully no one was hit by one of those bullets, and people we spoke with tonight say they're just shocked that federal agents would fire a gun like that. They also say they're disturbed by their explanation because many people think that cell phone video paints a much different picture of what actually happened.
The colonizers, the people who are the original illegal immigrants, where were their papers when they pulled up, right?
A couple dozen people gathered with signs and a megaphone.
Where are your papers, settlers?
In San Bernardino to denounce what they see as an unnecessary escalation of violence during federal immigration operations. A Border Patrol agent shot at a car with 3 men inside of it in this city early Saturday morning. The driver is an undocumented immigrant.
Hey, you can't do that!
We know what it looks like when someone is coming in and using violence against our communities under the blanket of keeping the community safe.
The young man recording from the back seat told us his father-in-law drove away from the men in police vests and went home because he feared for his life after they punched him through the window. He says the men refused to identify themselves or explain what was happening.
I was thinking the bullets were going to run through the back window and hit any of us.
He says the video is proof that no agents were ever in harm's way, but the Department of Homeland Security tells a different version of events, writing in part, in the course of the incident, the suspect drove his car at the officers and struck 2 CPB officers with his vehicle, forcing a CPB officer to discharge his firearm in self-defense. But people here aren't buying that.
Absolutely not. It appears that he was afraid for his life. He was running.
So I think that speaks volumes on the integrity of this federal department.
That explanation remains unverified and deeply troubling.
Including San Bernardino Mayor Helen Tran, who took to social media calling for an investigation into whether or not any of these federal agents possibly violated any procedures. San Bernardino police were later called to manage a crowd that surrounded the driver's home. They say they couldn't do much for either side because they can't assist with federal immigration operations per state law. And the men who were in the car that day say the driver is not committing any crimes here. They say he owns a home and a business in San Bernardino, and he has been trying to become a U.S. citizen for 20 years. They say they always just deny him. Reporting live in San Bernardino, Nicole Comstock, KCAL News.
Thank you, Nicole. Now, let's bring in KCAL News assignment editor Mike Rogers on the desk. Now, Mike, in this particular case, the San Bernardino Police Department is getting heat from both sides.
Yeah, they really are, Pat. And you heard Nicole mention it in her piece there. The San Bernardino Police Department came and showed up to conduct crowd control, but weren't able to do more because of the state sanctuary laws. Well, I want to get into some of that, and I want you to hear what protesters were shouting outside the San Bernardino Police Department tonight.
We are here demanding that the San Bernardino Police Department stop collaborating with ICE.
Yeah, so that's what protesters were alleging, that San Bernardino Police Department was collaborating with ICE and the Customs and Border Protection. San Bernardino Police say the exact opposite. They say, and you heard in Nicole's reporting there, that after those shots were fired, they showed up at the home at the request of the person driving. Now, once they got there, so did federal agents. San Bernardino Police Department got there first. They spoke with the driver, but because this was immigration related and under the California Values Act, also known as the sanctuary state laws, they're unable to act in coordinates with Customs and Border Protection, so they left. It wasn't until later when the federal agents showed up that then they responded back to the home as well to conduct crowd control. Now, according to them, under the state law, they are allowed to do that. I want to show you a statement here from the Department of Homeland Security. It's more of what Nicole had earlier. They said, quote, after the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, and I want to correct them, it was not the Sheriff's Department, it was the Police Department. After the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department located the subject at a residence and briefly had him in custody, he was set free. This decision was made despite the subject refusing to comply and wounding 2 officers. Another terrible example of California's pro-sanctuary policies and actions that shield criminals instead of protecting communities. San Bernardino has their own statement saying, quote, it was unclear what the suspect was wanted for. Under the California Values Act, California law enforcement agencies are prohibited from assisting federal officials with immigration enforcement. So our officers left the scene as the investigation was being conducted by federal authorities. So now you hear the Department of Homeland Security is upset with San Bernardino and mostly the state sanctuary laws. But then you've got the other side upset that San Bernardino PD came back out to conduct crowd control. Pat, we've talked to local chiefs and sheriffs all over the region that say there is that fine line of protecting the public, and that's when they show up to do the crowd control stuff. But all of these agencies say they will not help with immigration enforcement. And to point that out, in this situation, San Bernardino PD spoke with the person in the driver's seat, ultimately leaving him because it was an immigration issue, something that was not well received by the Department of Homeland Security.
All right, thank you so much for that, Mike. I'm afraid we may hear more of these kinds of instances.